One of the most challenging and divisive conversations of our day is about human sexuality. It's a conversation that's deeply personal for many who identify as LGBTQ or same-sex attracted, or who have close friends and family members who do. And it's a conversation that the church must engage with. And perhaps the most important part of our conversation on human sexuality is that we remember it's not about an issue to be solved, but a people to be loved. I believe this is the fundamental disposition that Jesus models for us in the Gospels. The two groups of people most shamed and ostracized in Jesus' day were the tax collectors and the sinners. Tax collectors were viewed not just as rich and greedy, but as extortioners who profited off the betrayal of their own people. And sinners was a broad category, but typically referred to women who sold their bodies in prostitution to make a living. And so when Jesus arrived on the scene, the religious leaders just assumed he'd fall right in line with them in their way of thinking, condemning these particularly wretched, ungodly people. However, Jesus' approach was radically different. Rather than shame them, he shared meals with them. He listened to their stories. He sympathized with their experience. He laughed and had fun with and related to these people around the table. Because to Jesus, they weren't just people, they were friends. And not only were they his friends, but they became some of his closest disciples. Matthew, a tax collector, and Mary, a sinner. Now, that doesn't mean Jesus approved of greed or prostitution, far from it. And they were well aware of that. There was no confusion on Jesus' position or where he stood. But while he may not have affirmed their actions, what he did affirm was their humanity. What he did affirm was that they were fearfully and wonderfully made. What he did affirm was that they were loved. Loved by him and loved by God. Now, I know many would say that this is not a direct parallel to the LGBTQ community of our day, and that's partially true. But no matter the issue, you tell me which approach proved to be wise in leading others to righteousness. The Pharisees who shamed them from a distance, or Jesus who shared a meal with them in their own homes. And while the answer to that, I think, is clear, I think Jesus says it best in Matthew 11, verse 19. The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, here is a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners. But wisdom, he says, is proved right by her deeds. Human sexuality is a challenging topic today, and one that requires great wisdom to navigate. But according to Jesus, the wisest approach that we could take starts with something as simple as sharing a meal. Sharing a meal and hearing their story and showing them they're loved. Loved by Jesus, the friend of sinners like us, and loved by God, through whom we, all though sinful and unworthy, are fearfully and wonderfully made.